Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens. This is Dark Side of the Stream,
It's a very
episode
loud one, too.
170 on 104.7 The Cave.
170.
This week's pick, while Jay gets his camera ready, was his pick. It's a documentary that's been out on HBO Max for since
Probably
2017,
a while.
Mommy, Dead, and Dearest is the name. We didn't do it when it came out. I don't know why we didn't pick it. Probably because early on, Jay and I kind of decided we don't want to deal with kids stuff. It's just too tough.
I know.
This one being right in our own backyard is something we probably should have done.
She just got released from prison.
Got released from prison. So Jay brought it back up, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
I wasn't familiar with the story, at all.
Well, would you like to go into the story first, or would you like me to tell my personal experience with this story?
I think we should tell a story so people know what we're talking about.
Okay, we'll start with that first, and then we'll come back with my personal experience.
Of course.
This is a long one. So this story tells the story, if you've been living under a rock, especially in this area, of Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, who was murdered after Gypsy and her boyfriend, Nicholas, plotted to kill her and let Gypsy escape. The reason being was that Dee Dee had been misdiagnosing her daughter with all kinds of ailments, had a feeding tube put in her. I mean, just messed this kid up from the get-go. And there were a lot of failures at a lot of different levels.
Yeah, that's my thing. There was a lot of failures. The
first thing that, and my mother's a retired nurse. My aunt served as medical in the Army and stuff, and like I have nothing but the utmost respect for nurses and medical care workers in that field. With that being said, and this isn't something that I don't think anyone really doesn't know, is the messed up thing about the healthcare system in the United States of America, at least in my opinion, is that you have to be your own advocate. And I mean that by there are certain things that you have to fight for. And my mom would straight up tell you this as a nurse, as a retired nurse, that she, even as a retired nurse, has to go in there and fight for herself to be her own advocate, because healthcare workers are overworked and sometimes they don't know everything, and maybe they know something and you know something or whatever. It's just one of those things. In this situation, there were a lot of doctors that had their feelings, but no one really did anything.
Yeah. How does this pass up by all these doctors and nurses?
How do these two benefit from Children's Mercy Hospital, Habitat for Humanity, Ronald McDonald House,
if she didn't have
all these things, and no one stepped up and said, "Hey, wait."
None of these doctors and nurses go, "No, there's nothing wrong with this kid, man."
Well, there were so many things that were done, and it's just horrific.
I think there was some ball dropping going on, man.
But again, who do you blame? The only person you really can blame is Dee Dee. She's the one that created this. She just didn't get caught. Unfortunately,
I just don't see how, if you're a doctor and you go, "Yeah, I think this kid does need a feeding tube." You're right. When she did,
that's why I said be your own advocate. That's what she was doing. She was going in there and advocating for a kid who wasn't really even sick to begin with.
And I think the biggest ball dropper would be I was so furious with the father. It doesn't matter if you're a co-parenting, you're out of state, whatever it is. Follow-up questions. What? Our daughter's what? Talk to the doctors. No, hang on. Let's get a second. You don't just go, "Okay, cool." Dude, so furious with that dad.
It's a slippery slope. You and I have both been through
some wacky
the child lawyer and all that stuff,
fighting for
rights as a father,
yeah.
And how difficult it can be, especially if you're not in the same state. You know what I mean? He wasn't in Missouri. And again, I get what you're saying.
Dude,
he could have, but he had his own family, and it's tough.
I mean,
we don't know his you don't know his social economic situation.
He's wasn't a very intelligent. He's kind of a low intelligent cat, I know those Louisiana Bayou type people, they're a little simple.
And Jay lived in New Orleans, he knows that we just call him simple.
Yeah.
Okay. But I see your point 110%. And yes, there's so many should have, could have, would haves in this situation.
A lot of ball droppings, man.
Medical staff, hell, DFS. You get anyone involved and blame anyone about this. Yeah. Nothing was done. That's just the bottom line.
Wild.
I will tell you why it probably was that way, or at least it went that way after I share my personal experience with this situation. Next, Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio, Dark Side of the Stream, episode 170, discussing Mommy, Dead, and Dearest on Max. That came out in 2017. The reason we're doing this, of course, Gypsy Rose just got released, and I hope she's finding some peace. Being on social media, probably not the best idea. Hopefully someone can kind of aid her. She's going to need therapy for the rest of her life. I stand by that. I stand by therapy. I think it's a very important thing.
I almost feel like her being sent to jail for a while was extremely helpful, probably for her.
Probably gave her some a foundation.
Yeah, and then a chance to like figure out how life is rather than being thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
A little structured lifestyle. Maybe, I really feel like that was a blessing.
Maybe that was the reason. Maybe either way. Yeah, she's been released, she's out, and I will tell you my personal story with this situation and why it probably got passed on for so long. I've been in a band, it's kind of a country sci-fi band called Big Damn Heroes for a number of years, and we only play probably one show a year, and it's usually at a convention here in town. And years ago, they used to hold the whole thing at the Howard Johnson, which is no longer around, on South Glenstone, and they would have like the convention there. They had convention rooms. They'd bring guests in. And this particular year was very important to me because they had Chief from Battlestar Galactica. He was one of the main character draws there. So myself and a couple of the bandmates who are huge fans of Battlestar Galactica made damn sure we were there day one to meet him. We ended up hanging out with him. We got drunk, talked about anthrax and metal. The guy is the coolest dude. He's from Canada. He's it's like one of those things where you meet a guy you really like and you're kind of like, is this guy gonna be, you end up trashed with him at 12:30 at the Hojo bar. And it was the best time of my life. We had the best time. He was such a cool dude. In the middle of that, he's doing a meet and greet, and we snuck in being performers at the thing, so we were able to get in that way. And while we're there, here comes, and I'd never known about these two before, Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose, and Gypsy's in this wheelchair thing, and she is acting like she's got the mental capacity of like a 5-year-old, but it's obvious that she's not. But she's got all these tubes and stuff, and her mom's kind of carting around, and everyone just let them do what they want. It was under the impression they were there for Make-A-Wish,
right?
And seeing it just at face value, right? There's no argument. Damn. I did have a really weird vibe about the whole thing, but again, what do you say? Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to argue with this kid who's in a wheelchair?
No, of course not.
You're going to argue with your mom that's standing there next to you? You're not going to do that.
Of course not.
Therein lies the issue.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the problem. It's such a slippery slope when it comes to healthcare, and then you telling a parent, like, wait a minute, because what are you going to say? And again, the whole situation was weird to me. I was very weirded out about the whole thing. I didn't really have any kind of one-on-one. We did our thing with Chief and kind of got in and out. But it was very odd. And then years later, when this happened, I remember sitting there going, holy God.
That was the girl. Huh?
That was her. That whole thing was fake. Are you kidding me?
Right, dude.
Anyway, we'll talk more about this next. Dark Side of the Stream continues on 104.7 The K. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 170. Mommy, Dead, and Dearest on Max. So I told my personal story again. This would continue until eventually when Dee Dee was killed by Gypsy Rose and her then boyfriend, who conspired to get him out. They would take off, eventually get captured, arrested. And then the essentially aftermath would be this whole court trial, which is horrific. When you hear what this girl went through, you would think that, man, maybe.
I think that's why she got a light sentence. Because think of it like this, like if somebody kidnaps somebody and is torturing someone, you probably are justified in killing that person to escape, correct? I don't think this is very much different than that.
No, but I got to give you props, bro. The props I give you is having the insight to say that I'm not saying that sending her to prison was a good call, but what you said, one of the positives out of her going to jail is to give her a foundation of what actually, I'm not saying that's life, but when you have an actual foundation, you have to get up. You have to do this for yourself. You have to make sure you do this for yourself because you're an adult now. And I know that you missed out on a whole bunch of time in your life to learn all these things. Unfortunately, that you didn't. but now you got to, because you're about ready to be thrown out into the real world. And hopefully,
and it comes back to like with the dad thing, like anything in life, anything, a news story that you hear, anything, something somebody tells you, verify
trust,
multiple
but
sources,
verify.
trust but verify. Go, cool. Anything you hear it on the news, verify it. Check other sources. Don't just go, that's what's going on in the world right now. You know, it's the same thing. That's what she's sick. Well, let's get a second opinion. All right. I don't know. That doesn't quite, something sounds weird. Let me talk to the doctor, you know?
Very, very, very interesting. So eventually, in December of last year, she was released on parole, went back to Missouri, but then the state was like, no, you gotta get out of here.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. Part of her parole agreement, I believe, is she, for some reason, she can't be here. I think she ended up going to Louisiana, I think. But what I wanted to ask you was, do you think the punishment for the boyfriend is also, because Nick didn't seem like he was also all the way there, and he's not all the way. He's in life in prison without the possibility of parole. He's going to be in prison forever, unless somehow they give him the governor signs off on an early release or something. That kid's not going to see the light of day. Do you think the crime fits, or the punishment fits?
Like
the crime?
I said, I can see an argument for like, hey, this guy saved her in a weird way, you know. She would be trapped in this hell. Basically, it's no different than somebody kidnapping somebody and torturing them. If you know somebody's got somebody held up in a house torturing them, I think you would have to step in and do something. Like, you know, it'd be the right thing to do. I don't know. It's a complex scenario there, man.
It is, and it's a very slippery slope. Obviously, what happened. There's no changing it. And we just have to deal with it.
Hope for the best for her now, here on out.
But it's like we always say, if you see something, say something. But man,
yeah, if something seems weird,
so many people that were involved and saw this, they're always like, man, I knew something weird was going on. But again, what the hell are you going to do? You going to tell this kid's mom that she's not raising her right? Hell no. You going to say it to me? What do you think I'm going to do? You say it to Jay? What do you think he's going to do? Keep your mouth shut. That's my kid.
Oh, yeah, weird, man.
So
weird.
It's tough. We'll be back with our rating and review next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio one more time. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 170, Mommy Dead and Dearest. So how many Make-A-Wishes would you give this?
First, you want to know the freaky thing?
What?
My two grown daughters, their mom is kind of a piece of work, you know.
That's a nice way to put it.
Well, dude, there was so many things that this mom was doing, like not to this level, but characteristic traits that mimicked her, like just not to this extreme level, but so many things. I was like, man, this is the kind of stuff that mom was doing too. Like, ooh, it was
sociopathic behavior.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
very similar.
Not quite as extreme, but there was a lot of stuff. I was like, wow, that's real similar to the stuff that their mom was pulling. You know?
Yeah, it's a very, very, again, slippery slope. But at the end of the day, what could anyone have done?
Yeah,
I mean, you do what you can do, and then if the system fails you, it fails you, and it fails people and kids all over this country every single day. It's not perfect by a long shot. So how many Make-A-Wishes would you give this one?
3.5. You know,
same.
Yeah.
I mean, I already knew pretty much.
I didn't really know the story, and all it did was make me mad. So
yeah. And that's why we stay away from the kid documentaries.
I know, man.
Next week's pick is mine, and we're going to do the new Netflix series, American Nightmare.
Watched it already.
Good.
Watched it twice. I've watched it twice. It's that good.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to do next. You can watch it in the meantime. Watch us live on Thursdays on Facebook or YouTube. Listen to it as a free podcast on our 104.7 The Cave app, or during my show at 9 a.m. or Jay's show at 6 p.m. I am Mike the Intern.
I'm Jay
Stevens reminding you, we watch movies, so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.